Hello friends, subscribers and new viewers of this channel, and welcome to Machine Learning and Data Science tutorials. In this tutorial, we provide a brief and practical introduction to Pandas DataFrame. Pandas DataFrame is a primary Pandas data object and data structure. In this tutorial, we explain how to create Pandas data frames from NumPy arrays and how to perform basic operations on data frames. So let's immediately start. The first step is to install the necessary packages and to open your favorite Python editor. In my case, I'm using Spider and Anaconda. And if you want to use Spider and Anaconda, I created a separate video tutorial explaining how to do that, and the link to that tutorial will be provided in the description below this video. So let's open Anaconda Navigator, click on Start and search for Anaconda Navigator and start Anaconda Navigator. Be patient over here since it will take several seconds to install and to actually load Anaconda. The first step is to install the necessary packages. Although you probably have Pandas and NumPy, it's still a good idea to try to install them just in case you don't have them. So click here on Environments and click on a base or root and environment and be patient over here. And over here click on Open Terminal, and in the terminal type this, pipe or pip install pandas, to install pandas and to make sure that the pandas is up to date, and after that type pip install numpy to install numpy. Okay, good. Now we are ready to go. Close this terminal, then click on Home and click here to start Spider. And click on Cancel over here. Next, open a new script by clicking over here, and I will close my previous script. Then I will erase this. The first step is to import the necessary libraries. First of all, we need to import NumPy, and we usually do it like this. This will import NumPy library with all of its modules. After that, we need to import Pandas, and we usually import Pandas as. In this tutorial, we will demonstrate how to create data frames by using NumPy arrays. But before we do that, let's explain what is a Panda data frame. Pandas data frame is a primary Pandas data object and data structure. It's a two-dimensional table that can contain heterogeneous data. First, let's create a random matrix. I will call that matrix as matrix 1, and this matrix is equal to numpy.random.randn, and over here I will specify the size of the matrix. Let's evaluate this and let's see it over here. Here it is. It's a 4x4 random matrix. To create a data frame out of this matrix, we need to call a data frame constructor. First of all, I will call my data frame object as frame1, and then I will call the constructor by typing pd.dataframe. And over here, I will just pass my matrix. And let's see what will happen. Right now, if I evaluate this, and if I type frame1 over here, I will see my frame. You can see immediately that a table is created. The rows are automatically labeled starting from 0, then 1, 2, and 3, as well as the rows. The rows start from 0, 1, 2, and 3. That is, if you just pass a NumPy array, Pandas will automatically index the rows and columns by using integers. Next, when creating data frames from NumPy arrays, we can also directly specify the labels for rows and columns. So let's explain to do that. Over here, I will create a new matrix. I will call it matrix2, and I will construct this matrix in a different manner. So I will do this. NumPy.aRange over here. Then I will specify the size. And over here, I'm going to reshape this to be a matrix. And this should be a 3 by 3 matrix. And that's it. So here's my matrix 2. Here it is. Let's construct a data frame out of this matrix by directly specifying the labels for rows and columns. We do it like this. First of all, I will call my object as frame2. Then I will call the constructor. Then I will pass my matrix2 as the first input parameter, and over here I will do the following. I will specify directly the names or the labels for my rows. They will be P, Q, and R. And similarly, we can specify the labels for columns. Again, we will create a list, and I will call the columns as C1, C2, and for example, C3. Okay, so let's see what will happen once we evaluate this. And let's see our frame 2. Here it is. Now it looks very nice. We have C1, C2, and C3, and we have P, Q, and R. Good. Next, we explain how to construct data frames from Pandas series. First of all, let's define 2 NumPy arrays. This will be the first one. I will call it column 1, and again, I'm going to create a random array whose size is 5, and I will do the same thing for the column 2. Good. Next, I will define a dictionary where I will type this. C1 will be the label for the first column, and this will be the same label that will appear in my data frame, and over here I will simply specify that it's column 1. And the second key or the label will be column 2, and it will be called C2. Good. Now we can construct our frame. I will call it frame 3 like this. pd.dataFrame. We will call the constructor, and over here I will specify dictionary 1. And let's see what will happen if we evaluate this, and if I write here frame 3, I will exactly obtain my data frame. Here it is. A nice thing is that the columns will be automatically labeled. Good. Now, let's give the index labels or the index names, since I don't like the 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's write it down. So I will type frame 3.index is equal to, and over here I will specify a list of strings specifying the new names for my rows. So I will have row 1, then row 2, then row 3, then row 4, and then row 5. Okay, so let me correct this, and here it is. Now if I type this, magic will happen. If I type now frame 3, I will see that my rows are labeled as R1, R2 until R5. Good. Next, we explain how to retrieve the shape of our data frame. First of all, to retrieve the shape, we can type frame 3, and then we can type shape to see the output. And here it is. It's 5 by 2. We can get the index names by typing frame3.index, and the index names or the keys will appear. The same thing applies to columns. We can type frame3 dot columns, and we will retrieve the column names. This is very useful if you don't know the columns names and the rows names. Let's now extract the values stored in our frame tree. So let's see again our frame tree. It is 5 by 2 actually matrix. So let's extract that matrix. I will call the extracted matrix as matrix tree, and then I will type frame tree dot values, and this will extract the matrix. And let's see the matrix now. Here it is. And you can perform all sorts of operations on that matrix. Next, let's learn how to change the columns and the index names. Change names. Let me type it here, and let's learn how to do that. This is super easy actually. We will simply write frame tree, and then if you want to change the row names, type index and specify the new names. Over here the names are R1, R2, R3, R4, and R5. So let's now change the names as T1, for example, T2, T3, T4, and T5. And let's see the effect of this change. Now if I type frame tree, I will see that the row names are changed. Similarly, we can change the column names. I will simply type frame tree dot columns, and over here I will change the names. For example, I don't like C name, and then I will use Q1 and Q2. And let's evaluate this, and let's see the output. So if I now type frame tree, I will see that the columns are changed. Now they're Q1 and Q2. Next, let's learn how to access columns, rows, and values. First of all, we can access the columns like this. We type frame tree, and then over here, we type the name of the column. It's Q1. And let's see the output. Here it is. We are able to access the first column or to print the column. You can actually do something like this. If you want to access both columns at the same time, you will just provide a list where the entries are labels of the columns. And now we will get both columns at the same time. Next, you can get the columns by using the attribute access. You can simply type something like this, frame3.q1, and this will bring you the first column. And if you just want to get the values, you can just type this, frame3.values, and let's see the output. You will get the values stored in the first column as a simple NumPy array. Next, let's learn how to access the rows. There are several ways to access DataFrame rows. However, some approaches are confusing and I like to avoid them. Consequently, let us stick to the clear approaches. I use LOC and iloc approach to access the rows. Let's explain the LOC approach. To access a particular row, I will type the name of my data frame, then I will type LOC, and then I will type the name of the row. For example, the row name is T1, and let's see the output. Here it is. Here for reference, let's print the whole frame, and we can see that we have accessed the first row. You can do two rows at the same time by doing this, and over here, instead of a particular row label, you will specify a list. For example, I want T1 and I want, for example, T4. And let's see the output. Here it is. We can access them at the same time. The second approach for accessing the rows is to use the index of the row. So we can type something like this. If we want to access, for example, this row with the label T1, we will type this, frame3 dot I, which stands for index and location, and over here I will just specify 0, and this will bring the first row with the label T1. If I want to get 2 rows at the same time or several, I will specify the indices. For example, 0, 2, and 4 will print the corresponding rows. And here's how we do it. So far, we learned how to access particular columns and rows. However, we didn't learn how to access a particular value. Similarly to matrix notation, we would like to type something like this, frame3, and then I would like to access, for example, this element over here, and I can index it. The easiest way to do that is to use, again, loc or iloc. If I type location over here, I can simply say this. I want to access the entry in the row whose label is T2 and whose column is Q2. So let's see the output. And here it is. Here is the value. And that's the precise value stored over here, T2 and Q2. It's 0.153 or whatever it is. Good. You can do the same thing by using iloc. Instead of the labels, you will specify here the index. So let's see what is the index. T2 has the index 1, since it's basically the second row, and we know that the Python index everything from 0, and the column is 1. And let's see the output. Here it is. Perfect. Now, you have another useful function for accessing the entries. The name of this function is at. So you can type frame3.at, and over here, again, you will specify the labels, for example, T2 for the row and Q2 for the column. And let's see the output. Here it is. Similarly to loc and iloc, you will also have here a function .iat. This will access according to the index. So for example, we will type 11 to get the index. There is a third way of accessing certain values. You can simply type this. You can use attributes. So you can type frame3, then if you want to get the column, you will simply type the column name, and then you will write the row name. For example, T1, and this should get this element over here. And here it is. Perfect. Okay, that's all for today, and this is the first part of the tutorial. In the next tutorial, we will explain how to perform more advanced operations on DataFrame.